Welcome back to the channel, guys. Are you excited to get into the Stephanie Jones of it all? Because I feel that this Hollywood smear machine is imploding and Stephanie Jones is at the center of it. And we're going to start pulling it apart. Now, this is my third video on Stephanie. I've actually created her own playlist. Congratulations, Stephanie. You've upgraded to your own playlist. So we have a playlist now for Stephanie Jones. If you are looking for the other videos, if you go to the home screen of my YouTube, you're going to be able to find them there. But this is the third video I've done. I recommend watching them all, especially the first one, because the first one I read that Stephanie Jones is a liar website, which originally was posted at the URL, Stephanie Jones is a liar, and then that was removed. So if you want that full reading, make sure to watch that video after. Hang out with me first. Hello, guys. It's so nice to see you. Let's dive in. What's going on with, well, Stephanie Jones, because she has made some interesting hires, guys. Like a lawyer that, felony cases. It's really interesting to me. So we're going to do a little bit of like a catch up on who Stephanie Jones is and also look at her new lawyers. There's not much on the one. You're going to see when we get there. Has a military background of protecting military individuals from felony cases and felony charges. So there is not much about that guy online, but we're going to break it down. Now, what we are seeing ultimately go down with Justin, with this whole case, is PR warfare. This is what it is. Calling a spade a spade. It's narrative control. It's narrative seeding, right? The narrative seeding is like when those little narrative seed that is a recent one that we did a video on is Blake and Taylor are friends again. That's narrative seeding. They're seeding the narrative that they're friends again. So that's what we're dealing with. And it's also not just a feud. It's an entire system that has the potential to be unraveling here. And it's also why I am suggesting that maybe, I don't know, I'm not in the know. Maybe there's criminal charges coming. I would not be surprised if we saw criminal charges. Let me know. Would you guys be surprised? I don't know. I don't think Brian Friedman's playing games. All right. Who is Stephanie Jones? Supposed to say, who is Stephanie Jones' husband? Because a lot of people don't realize this, that Stephanie Jones has connections to WME. Hollywood is very incestuous. It is an interesting place. Jason Hodes, is that how you pronounce his name, is her husband, and he's a partner at WME, William Morris Endeavor, tied directly to also Ari Emanuel because of CEO of Endeavor, his links to WME, which I believe, I haven't really followed the Ari Emanuel of it all with his moves, but I do believe he shifted his position with WME recently. Now, the interesting thing with this is, one, everyone's connected, but two, potentially that connection could have been very beneficial in growing Jones' work. For example, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He was represented by WME, leading talent agency. I would say that, that and CAA are probably two of the bigger ones. And also engaged, not engaged as in like engaged to be married, but engaged with Jones' works in terms of PR, in terms of his publicist. So you're like, oh man, it's worse than I even thought. No. So that was held by Stephanie Jones, of course, but he was both with WME and Jones Works. He was with both organizations. When you have two leading organizations like that, it is like, it's very beneficial. He eventually left, though, which is really interesting. And I have a video. Actually, I think it's the original Stephanie Jones video about this. It's written out. Yes, it is written out on the Stephanie Jones Lies website. I'm just remembering, going into my memory banks. Read it on the Stephanie Jones website. And he had left as well because problems between Jones and his team developed. Everyone was leaving because there's problems with Stephanie Jones. She's cray cray. Oh, he stepped down, maintains a chair on the board. I mean, I should drop my phone. Like, that's funny. So he stepped down, but he has a chair on the board. Perfect. Hello, guys. It's so nice to see you. So yes, The Rock eventually left because of problems with Stephanie. That's eventually what would happen with Justin Baldoni. There were problems. He never said with his team, but he ended up leaving early on his contract, which seems to have like set her off large. I don't know. She seems very unhinged. So the agency she's married to dropped Baldoni. Was it personal? Was it strategic? Was it kind of like, we don't like this guy anymore? Because we've heard that, yes, Ari Emanuel is ride or die with Blake and Ryan. But when you also have the woman Scorned who's married to a guy with WME that hates now Wayfair and hates Justin, could that also have been a piece of it? Maybe. This is exactly why Melissa Nathan said Brian Freeman is willing to also take on WME for felony charges. They're ready for war. They're definitely ready for war. Unhinged is an understatement. Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it. She's an interesting person. So, that's what kind of makes me start to think, and as well as these connections, which are just very interesting. She's scorned by Wayfair and Justin. And yes, I know Ryan also said something, but did she say something to her husband at night? Like pillow talk, as they call it. It's very potential. It's there. I think there's a potential there. Nothing public, but I do think there's a potential there. Now, this is something that I'm still curious on. How are Leslie Sloan and Stephanie Jones linked? I can't find it. I cannot find how the two of them are linked. So kind of the question to myself is like, is she an ally? Is she an asset? Like, what's the actual connection there? They're both top tier Hollywood in the publicist PR world. This we're going to get into as well. Leslie Sloan, former publicist for Harvey Weinstein, although she denied it. And I have something interesting about that on a slide coming up. Allegedly received texts from Stephanie Jones, so Leslie Sloan, that were later tied to the New York Times reporting. But this is what I can't figure out. Why would Stephanie Jones have gone to Leslie Sloan? Is it just because? It might just be because Blake is represented by Leslie Sloan. It could be as simple as that. But couldn't you have just brought them directly to Blake then? It's just really weird. And I can't figure out her connection with Leslie, but definitely Brian Freeman has said like she is ground zero for all of this because she's the one that illegally, which is also why I think there's going to be criminal charges coming, illegally obtained the text messages from Jennifer Abel's phone, gave them over to Leslie Sloan. They originally had claimed there was a subpoena for the phone, but I don't know about in the US, but in Canada, it's not like me, Ashley, gets a subpoena for something and I'm like, oh, here you go. And I just give it to the person. Like, that's not how it works. It's not like Ashley gets the subpoena. It's okay to look in that phone. So I just give it to whoever I want. The whole thing is very weird. Let me just. Could be, but we think Leslie Sloan took down Weinstein, right? I definitely think so. I definitely think she's involved. But it's just interesting. I can't link Leslie Sloan and Stephanie Jones together outside of just happens to be Blake's publicist. So how the New York Times article came to be. So we have Stephanie Jones to Leslie Sloan to Megan Twohey, who writes for the New York Times. One thing that is really interesting for me, I'm going to do this as a members only video. So if you're part of the silver level of the members only, this is going to be a members only video because I feel like it will feel like if I put this public, my whole channel will be gone. So I'm interested in where Taylor and Ronan Farrow come into this, because if we look at it, and I think it's on the next slide, I have, the Harvey Weinstein piece, the similar players. Megan Twohey writes for the New York Times. She wrote the hit piece on Harvey Weinstein that started, like, it was the catalyst, right? And Harvey spoke out about it recently. The connection to Leslie Sloan is there, which we'll get into in another video. But the connection to Leslie Sloan is there. But also in this timeline, there was, and how the New York Times article came to be, in, I think, late October, I believe, off the top of my head, Ronan Farrow and Taylor Swift were seen together. And he has claimed, well, no, because I write for the New Yorker, how could I be involved? But I don't know. I'm not saying it's true, but it's just as interesting because he's besties with Taylor Swift. They go out, and then all of a sudden, Megan Twohey has the New York Times article. Started well before the CRD complaint. And we could argue, and I've had people argue to me, well, it doesn't make sense because why would Ronan Farrow give up that chance to write it? Well, maybe he felt like he was too connected. That's possible. Another thing, he's actually represented by WME through that portion of their talent agency, Ronan Farrow. They have like different, I can't think of it off the top of my head what division of WME it is, but Ronan Farrow is represented by WME. He used to be with CAA. And then after everything came out with Harvey Weinstein, he left CAA for WME. I'm telling you guys, I need a pin chart. I need to get us a pin chart because that's what's interesting for me as well is Ronan Farrow used to be with CAA, which is where Harvey Weinstein world was. And then all of a sudden he's over at WME. Not saying that there was anything there. I want to make sure I make that clear. I don't know. It's just interesting. Okay, so there's that. And then the connection so a lot of people have said, but Ashley, why do these cases keep getting enmeshed? Like, why does Harvey's name keep getting brought up? And it's because of the people involved. That's why, ultimately. This is interesting. So we're going to get into this a little bit. We're going to get into the Leslie Sloan of it a little bit before we get into the new lawyers for Stephanie Jones. So when we look at Harvey Weinstein's case, just to touch on who those similar players are, Leslie Sloan was rumored to be his publicist at the time. A lot of people are pushing online that, no, she was his publicist. She's denied it. We're going to get into that a little bit more. So Leslie Sloan is a rumored first point in the takedown of Harvey Weinstein. It then went into Megan Twohey of the New York Times and Ronan Farrow of the New Yorker. Now, from what I can find, apparently, Ronan Farrow separates himself a little bit and he says, no, it's different sources and I'm talking to employees and agents and legal documents and such. But they both won Pulitzer Prizes for their work on Me Too and Harvey Weinstein. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, if you're not interested yet. If we look at this, if you go to Google, you can see this. There's this article here, Meet Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan. She has ties to Harvey Weinstein. Sloan previously served as Weinstein's publicist. And then we have this one, publicist Leslie Sloan is starting a new company that will be financed by Harvey Weinstein. And this article originally had a snippet, so this little SEO snippet that included that Leslie Sloan was his publicist. I can't find anything anywhere on that page 6 article anymore. I can't find it anywhere. So it is possible that that article was made to disappear. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. Steph went BL with messages thinking she can get immunity by giving them ammunition, but they ended up finding out way more in the messages, extortion documenting, etc. Then WME all decided to take down WP. Yeah, I think for sure. Absolutely. Ronan is protecting his self-interest for sure. There's something it's just odd, and it's just the situation is interesting. Sloan got funding from Weinstein to start her PR company. Yes. Somehow Blake has a good relationship with Weinstein. Oh, you're making Stephanie's Taylor's godmother, and you're making a joke. I love it. Yeah, it seems like, Taylor's everyone's godmother. It's wild. But so when I've looked into these articles, even in the Wayback Machine, I actually couldn't find any link to the page 6 article that everything was quoting. If you go through, everything links back to this page 6 article that Leslie Sloan was his publicist as well. That it wasn't just that he financed, right? So right here we can see publicist Leslie Sloan is starting a new company that will be financed by Harvey Weinstein. It wasn't just that. I can't find anything. So I just wanted, this is a cool tidbit just for you to know, because I know a lot of people go over to the Wayback Machine and they're like, oh, well, if it's ever been, if it's been on the internet, you can find it. Not necessarily. So this is just a cool little tidbit that you can walk away with. You can hide things even from the Wayback Machine. So you can file or include these files on websites, which tell like these crawlers that they're not allowed to index, that the Wayback Machine isn't allowed to index it. So even if you put that in after the article came out, the Wayback Machine will retroactively remove all saved versions. So if you can't find something, it is possible, and you're in your head and you're like, oh my goodness, I swear I'm not losing my mind. This article was there, or this edit was there on it, or, I'm not losing. I know it was there. It can be removed. Legal claims can also, so if someone says, sends their lawyer after someone that it violates like privacy laws or posted without consent, you can also get it removed. And then it's like gone. So that is possible. I just want to let you guys know, just in case you ever think you're going crazy because you can't find something. All right, but let's bring it back to Stephanie Jones. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure if it is simply just because she's Blake Lively's publicist, but it's just interesting, the connections to everyone. Now, let's look at these lawyers that Stephanie Jones brought on, because I think girlfriend's getting set up for something. I think she's getting ready for something. Sloan Wine, Harvey Weinstein gone from her company. Yep, she fed Tui the info. I agree 100%. 100%. I agree. All right, so with the breakdown of things, December 2024, we all know, but let's just do a brief overview. Blake files her CRD complaint. She waits weeks, even though she could have filed it immediately. I think someone tested it out themselves, saw their post online, took them like 5 minutes to have the information they needed to move forward with the actual lawsuit. So she waits until the pressure's on. Now she eventually sues Baldoni, that harassment, hostile work environment, or the retaliation piece. We have December as well. Stephanie Jones sues Baldoni's team, this sabotage that's going on. January 2025, Baldoni countersues Lively, Reynolds, Leslie Sloan, and the New York Times. But March 2025, this is when we start to get into, and I believe it was the end of March, that not only do they accuse Stephanie of leaking the text, but we finally see what so many of us were waiting for. Stephanie Jones gets her own lawsuit, right? Brian Freeman must feel like Oprah out there, like, you get a lawsuit and you get a lawsuit. Like, everyone gets a lawsuit because you're all unhinged and you're all a mafia taking people down for shits and giggles because you want to be in control. Well, good. You get a lawsuit for it. Congratulations. Like, I am just so happy that someone is finally standing up to these psychos. It's about time. Here's where it gets even more interesting, though. So April 8th, Jones hires lawyers Maureen Ali Shaw and Kristen Toller. Well, they might have been hired previously, but that's when we see them. I have it here. That's when we see them show up in documents, listed documents. So they might have, who knows how long they've been on, but that's when we see it officially. April 9th, Nicholas Innes asked to appear pro hoc vice. And April 9th, Harvey Weinstein defends Baldoni in statement slamming the New York Times. I just have a weird feeling, a very weird feeling, there is something coming. I don't have anything other than the fact, welcome to being a member. We're going to do, like, for the members only videos, we're going to do some stuff that I don't want to be taken down. So to have this taken down. So we'll do like the really good stuff over there, like the Ronan and Taylor stuff. Okay. I have Stephanie Jones is making some interesting moves. And then Harvey Weinstein all of a sudden comes out and says, I'm watching. Could there be criminal charges? I don't know. I'm not on Stephanie Jones' team, but it's interesting. I feel like someone is planning for something. Did you know Leslie Sloan was Britney Spears' publicist? Is that for real? Yeah, I'm like going to Google. Wow. Interesting. So she was a longtime publicist. Huh. Interesting. All right. That can be for another day. But that is actually very interesting. And I'm such a Britney fan. So, yes, I'm going to put a pin in it. Remember to come back to that. All right. Maureen, the second video on Stephanie Jones, we go into Maureen. She specializes in high stakes litigation and complex legal disputes, often involving high profile cases and crisis situations. She also, and all three lawyers are from the same firm as well. She frequently acts as a strategic counselor on her clients' challenging and non public business or legal issues. She's adept at handling matters involving media exposure, public scrutiny, reputational risk, both behind the scenes and when these issues spill out into the public view. She focuses her practice on businesses and commercial litigation, as well as arts, fashion, media, and entertainment matters. And as a seasoned trial lawyer, she has represented clients as lead counsel in many state and federal trial and appellate courts, as well as arbitration hearings. So I have actually been able to find cases for her where like she literally is representing artists. Hello, it's so nice to see you. Thank you for joining the chat. Hope you're having a great day. Where she represents artists. She also represented Kendall Jenner when she was taking on an Italian fashion brand. So she's definitely handled a lot of, well, arts and fashion and celebrities, entertainment. But when we look at her, I thought this was a really interesting hire because it's kind of like, I don't know, boss level PR strategist. Like if we're looking at like old school video games, I don't know. When I played old school video games, you can get to like the boss level. You know, this is kind of what we're looking at here. She's kind of that legal embodiment. She controls the legal positioning, narrative control, courtroom optics. And I don't know exactly. Obviously, she's going to be hired for something very specific with Leslie or with Stephanie Jones. Oh my God, there's so many people involved in this. It's so hard. I swear I have dreams about all these people trying to keep them straight. For Stephanie Jones, something very specific, but I just want to touch on some things they could potentially do. So navigating reputational risk, like that's like the surgical precision. Like when you don't even want to go above like publicist or PR rep, this is someone you hire. Dealing with damaging narratives, coordinating strategy across legal and PR teams. So this is also someone, so for example, say Stephanie has like a crisis PR and she has a regular PR or whatever. This can coordinate. She can coordinate everyone, managing NDAs, confidentiality obligations, which is interesting because some people have been saying, do you think that more people are going to come forward in regards to Stephanie Jones? Because Stephanie Jones, you cannot find much of. And the second video we did on her, I went to Google, and I know you guys are like, go to DuckDuckGo. I'm not going to DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo is useless for me. It is useless for me when I am looking for clients. It's useless for me when I'm looking at what's happening online and entertainment. Why? Because I want to see where the narrative control is. I want to see where the media manipulation is. And you might be like, but yeah, that's why people should be using DuckDuckGo. No one uses DuckDuckGo unless you are already someone that's nervous about narrative control and media manipulation. We want to see like, what are the average people seeing? We're seeing in terms of the amount of people that use Google on their desktop is over 90% of users are going to Google to search something. This is what I try to hammer all the time, right? Because we get in this fishbowl sometimes, those of us that are following this case, and we're going, how do people not see what's going on? And how are they not up to date? Because 90-something% of people are getting their content from legacy media. They're going to Google and typing in Blake Lively news, and they're getting boop, smear campaign, boop, glamour and mommy sleuths and MAGA and all of this crap. That's where they're getting their news. And then when we look at phones, it increases to over 95% of users are going to Google. YouTube is having a huge insurgence, but how do you take on over 90%, right? So you guys can use DuckDuckGo, but for my purposes, when I do trainings like this, or when I work with clients, or when I'm trying to understand what's going on, as in narrative control and SEO and PR moves, it makes no sense for me. No sense for me to use DuckDuckGo. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you and the support. I really appreciate you so much. It's because of you guys that I can do what I do. Oh, Kitty, thank you so much. You guys are the best. I haven't watched your other videos on Stephanie. Did you look into Wheelhouse? I do not believe so because that hasn't come up. I don't believe in the forefront of my mind, but not in those videos. I haven't. So why would you bring someone like her on? Like beauty and brains. This woman has it all. Potentially, if you feel like you're going to be dragged into criminal level accusations, potentially doesn't have to be that big, but you're adding this later, right? Used as a witness, maybe co-conspirator in a larger case. There, essentially what we're looking at is like there's big guns that are needed to control the narrative here for Stephanie Jones. Kristen Toller, partner at the same company. She deals with the firm's international disputes, section 1782 practice. I don't know what that means. Her practice focuses on white-collar criminal defense, internal investigations, and complex civil matters often related to criminal or quasi-criminal charges or fraudulent conduct. Again, am I the only one? Oh my gosh, Kitty, you are so kind. Guys, shout out to Kitty, who is gifting memberships. You're incredible. We're all blessed to have you here, my friend. So is anyone else starting to go, there's got to be something going on here? There's got to be something going on here. Because she specializes in white-collar criminal defense, internal investigations, and complex civil matters often related to criminal or quasi-criminal charges or fraudulent conduct. What is going on with Stephanie Jones? What is she preparing for? Drawing on extensive and varied litigation experience, Kristen serves as a master strategist who helps clients shape legal approaches to complicated problems. Her clients are often international companies, executives, board of directors, investors, and ultra-high net worth individuals who turn to her as counselor to help solve their thorniest legal issues, map out strategies, and carry out coordinated. In my head, I read that as coordinated attacks, coordinated plans that are also attacks. A motion to dismiss for a start. In terms of Kristen, potentially. But it's just interesting because she's already said or had a statement that she put out. And we'll pull up the timeline. This is from Vanity Fair as well. We'll pull it up later. Because they have actually nicely laid out for you guys, for all of us guys. I know some people get very triggered when I say you guys. I don't know. Where I'm from, that's like what you say to your friends. So Kristen Toller, a partner at Quinn Emanuel and legal representative for Stephanie Jones, provide the following statement to Vanity Fair. Miss Jones' lawsuit is based entirely on facts and concrete evidence. That suit clearly shows that Jen Abel conspired with Melissa Nathan and others to steal reams of confidential documents, clients, and staff, and eventually attempt to destroy the business that Miss Jones spent decades building. I think, Stephanie Jones has destroyed it enough all on her own. And whoever is running Stephanie Jones is a liar. They're doing their part. Abel, Nathan, Baldoni, and their co-defendants attempted to achieve these outcomes through bullying, distortion, and outright disparagement. These facts are backed up by dozens of messages provided in the suit we filed months ago and cannot be credibly disputed. Having no facts or evidence, we see a familiar playbook. Smear our client, culminating in the work of fiction masquerading as the counterclaims that were filed yesterday. Okay, we're just going to continue on. So Nicholas Inns, he was also brought on. So we saw him added on the 9th. I say you guys too. Amazing. I've never used folks in my life. Yeah. It might just be regional. I don't know. So Nicholas Inns, he joined the firm in 2021, same firm. This is where, again, it gets so interesting. Prior to joining the firm, Nick served in the Navy as a member of the Judge Advocate General's Corps for 10 years. He prosecuted and defended sailors accused of felonies and litigated more than 30 contested cases to verdicts. He also advised Navy leaders on military operations in the Western Pacific and developed strategic approaches to reducing legal risk in interactions with foreign countries. That is a cool history, first of all. But again, I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some girl on a farm in Ontario, Canada. In the South, we say y'all. I've picked up saying y'all from being around so many people from the South, or even just watching Emily D. Baker all the time. I just like picked up y'all. One of my friends said, "Where did you start saying that from?" Like, I don't know. I picked it up from somewhere. But this is really interesting because for him, it's all trial from what I can find, and felony trials. This is what I'm saying. I agree. Maybe she's up on criminal charges for confiscating the phone and giving the info to the New York Times. I think so. I'm thinking they're planning for something like that to come. Now, this is where Brian Freeman had said Stephanie Jones triggered this catastrophe by violating privacy laws. So this is all from this website. Vanity Fair has this. Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively. Who's suing whom? I mean, it is a complicated case. March 21st, 2025. He says, spring has sprung, and so has a new It Ends With Us lawsuit. Baldoni and Abel have filed a joint lawsuit against Stephanie Jones, former publicist for Baldoni and Wayfair Studios in New York federal court. It is undeniable that Stephanie Jones initiated this catastrophic sequence of events by violating the most basic of privacy rights, as well as any remaining trust her clients had, said Brian Freeman in a statement to Variety. No stranger to stirring up crisis scenarios for departing clients, Miss Jones maliciously turned over communication from the phone she wrongfully took from her own partner to her cohort, Leslie's personal publicist, Leslie Sloan, immediately after Jones was terminated for cause by Wayfair due to her own wrongful behavior. Interestingly enough, Stephanie Jones left her original employer under like the, very similar. Actually, I think maybe Leslie Sloan did too, but like you leave your employer who hasn't left an employer. The problem is this crazy woman goes vengeful. And if you watch the original video I did on Stephanie Jones, they said that if you tried to leave her as a client, she would put out all your secrets to destroy you in the press and then kind of have it like, well, if you want me to fix it, you have to come back. She is known for doing horrible things. She's known for having problems within the company. The Rock left because of the issues between her and his staff. And also on that Stephanie Jones Lies website, again, that's the original video in her playlist, they talk about how she would do the same to employees that try to leave, that things would only get worse. Like if you try to leave, you were destroyed basically by her. So what happens when you have both an employee and a client that are leaving, and not just leaving, but leaving together? This apparently is what happens. She goes boss level crazy and steals a phone, which was wrongfully taken, as Brian says, hands it over to Leslie Sloan, who she's got to know in her head, Leslie Sloan connected to the whole Me Too thing with Harvey Weinstein. And then all of a sudden you have a New York Times article birthed. So the Variety or Vanity Fair, I don't even know anymore. Vanity Fair, I think, goes on. After Abel announced that she was leveraging Jones' work to begin her own PR outfit, the complaint claims that she was confronted by a physically imposing security guard and a lawyer sitting at a conference table covered in documents. The complaint alleges that Abel was pressured to turn over her personal computer. After doing so, the suit claims that she was pressured to turn in her cell phone as well. She agreed on the condition that Jones' work would immediately release her personal cell phone number, which would allow Jones' work to take Abel's physical device without gaining unrestricted access to its contents. The suit claims that Jones' work agreed to these terms, and Abel went directly to the Verizon store to get a new phone with her released phone number. When Abel got to the store, her phone number was not released, and she was allegedly forced to wait for 4 hours, eventually leaving Verizon in panic and despair. The suit states that in that moment, Abel realized Jones had double-crossed her in a very serious way by allegedly forcing Abel to lose access to her iCloud, including all of her text messages, photos, and contracts, bank accounts, utilities, insurance, and virtually every other sensitive account. By contrast, Jones now had unrestricted access to everything stored on Abel's phone: her text messages, emails, personal photos. Abel and Baldoni claim that this act violated California labor laws covering Abel's employment. I don't know, guys. Oh my goodness. Thank you, guys. You guys are so kind. I love you guys. Denise, welcome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for some of the stuff we're going to be getting into. The stuff that I don't want to be taken down for. Thank you. You guys are so kind. You love the eyeshadow. It's spring. I'm hoping that if I wear enough spring makeup colors, that maybe it will stop snowing in Ontario. That is my hope. That is my hope. At this point, I feel like it's a futile hope, but that's okay. Jones owned the information on the phone that only pertained to the business and nothing else. It's the same setup we have in the hospital when we use our personal phones for on-call. She had access to everything. And so Abel and Baldoni claim that that act violated California labor laws. It'll be very interesting to see if there's criminal charges coming. I hope. We see the sacrificial lambs go down. I'm not going to get into other cases, but how many cases do we see where the sacrificial lamb goes down? It's like Hollywood's horrible and it's corrupt and look at these characters there and et cetera, which is true. But you get the sacrificial lamb that goes down. Like, is anyone still wondering who Ghislaine trafficked children to, or well, young girls to? Like, I'm still sitting here wondering, like, how do you traffic to nobody? So we see these sacrificial lambs go down, but how often do we see someone like this be taken down? It'll be very interesting if finally we start to see justice. And I would like to believe if we actually see criminal charges brought, that it just fully bolsters Justin's case. Like, if this turns out to be, as Blake liked to brag, some mafia that her and her husband run with maximum effort and all their gangster friends, maybe it's time that you guys get treated like gangsters then. Maybe it's time that you guys get treated like it and start to have your shit looked into by authorities. I don't know. But again, who am I? All right, what else does it say? The suit claims that Jones subsequently turned over the contents of Abel's phone to Blake Lively's team so that her communications could be sliced and diced to construct a false narrative about the source of Lively's bad publicity. Baldoni claims that he and his production company Wayfair were also negatively impacted by Jones' actions, despite the fact they were still represented by her company Joneswork at that time. That is wild for me as well. So apparently, Wayfair and Justin were still represented by her company when she did criminal activity against them. Potentially, maybe, allegedly. I don't know. So, Baldoni's team says, in turning over the materials to Lively, Jones knew full well that the blowback would also engulf Wayfair and Baldoni. Stephanie Jones, founder of Joneswork, has a well-documented history of highly questionable conduct in the workplace, which the Lively parties would have seen with even the smallest amount of online research. Yet you just had to find Stephanie Jones as a liar or the Business Insider article. Just had to look. So even if they did a small amount of online research, yet they walked right into Miss Jones' ploy of bitter revenge against her most trusted employee at the expense of her long-term client. Freeman's statement continues. We will not stop until our clients are cleared of all wrongdoing and compensated for the vast damages that they have incurred. Oh, we already did that. I had a double page. Yeah, so that's Stephanie. And she has that history of taking out people that have wronged her. In her eyes, she's been wronged. So what are you guys feeling? I want to see what the chat's saying. Do you guys think that there will be criminal charges that are brought? I want to hear from you guys. Leanne says she won't face criminal, I don't think, but she's in a world of trouble civilly. It'll be interesting to see. I was really thinking of Colleen earlier when you were talking about Leslie. I love it. I love this community. We're on the same wavelength. It's true. Remember when all the stuff about The Rock came out after he left her? It's so funny you say that, WC, because I meant to look into that now that you had mentioned that. I meant to look into that before I came live today. But yes, that is true as well. Actually, I'm going to make a note to myself to look into to do a video on that. Because I did mean to look into that, but you're right. He was having problems with her. He left, and all of a sudden now all of this stuff came out about him. Manifesting spring. We are manifesting spring for sure around here. It's literally snowing still today. We took down so in the winter for the chicken coops, you put like plastic wrapping around so they don't get too cold. Took it all down. We're like, oh, spring. It's gonna be so warm now. No, it's not. What stuff about The Rock now? He's like, what happened? Let me see if I can find it quick. If not, I'm going to have to do it on a separate stream. I'll probably have to do it on a separate stream. But let's see. This is on a Reddit thread. As a former employee, Stephanie Jones is insane, narcissistic, and way worse than has ever been and probably will ever be made public. Someone says make a post. Yeah, I'm not able to find anything quick on The Rock, but we will what's this? Yeah, we'll have to look it up on another stream. But that's when all the stuff came out about him, was when he tried to leave her. As two lawyers say, it's unlikely a federal judge turned this into a criminal case. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting. But we also don't, like, the interesting thing is we don't even know everything they know behind the scenes. Why does Stephanie Jones look like a different person in every picture? I often wonder that myself. I use Glassdoor reviews on my thread of her. Yes, I have my first video of Stephanie Jones includes me reading all of the Glassdoor reviews as well. So we literally, if you guys want to know all about Stephanie, let me see if I can find the link. It is on my playlist because she's been upgraded. She's been upgraded to having her own. But this is the one you want to watch. That's the one you want to save because that YouTube video we go through, that's when Stephanie Jones is a Liar was still live, and we went through all of that. Yeah, around that time, a lot of channels started popping up and talking about The Rock's steroid use and diet. There was a lot of stuff that was coming out about him. I take what they say with a grain of salt after what they said about Blake's lawyer writing and 47.1 and what it will do in this case. Oh, yeah, the whole, like, their whole side is. Oh, thank you. Your hair looks cute today. You know, I can't use a flat iron on it. So I have not that anyone asked, but I have such a sensitive scalp. I tried a new conditioner and it made my hair fall out in chunks. And so I have to not use a flat iron or anything tough on my hair. So yes, let's just hope that it works out for waves. So I'm going to look pretty mangy on live streaming. Okay. What else did I want to pull up? Oh, that's what I wanted to pull up. because you guys had mentioned in the comments that Harvey Weinstein had backed Leslie Sloan's new venture. Yes. So there was an article about this. There were a lot, but the Hollywood Reporter had reported on it as well. And this is, remember I had said earlier in this stream that the Wayback Machine can also be manipulated. Beef organ supplements. I am vegan. I run a farm animal sanctuary, but thank you for the offer. I have heard that is very beneficial, but it was just from the shampoo. I had a reaction to it. But anyway, Harvey Weinstein backing publicist Leslie Sloan's new venture. And this is where a lot of people are saying that they believe that she was part of his takedown because she wanted basically control of her agency again. So publicist Leslie Sloan is starting a new company that will be financed by Harvey Weinstein. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. The move comes on a heel of her being fired. Now, what I found about her being fired from her longtime employer, BWR, interestingly enough, is they got wind that she was going to quit. And when they got wind that she was going to quit, this is why it also blows my mind that she lost her brain over Jennifer Abel leaving, because it's the same way she left anyway. So she was supposed to be leaving. They found out and they just asked, like, you're just fired, like, just leave. Sloan, whose clients included Katie Holmes, Blake Lively, and Megan Fox, was let go after BWR caught wind of the fact that Sloan was looking to start her own company, longstanding tradition in the PR industry. It happens. She's expected to bring most of her star roster with her to her new company. Why are they such hypocrites? Why is she such a hypocrite? And now she's freaking out about people leaving her, and she smears her ex-employees. Like I said, you guys have to watch that original video. It was wild what she does to ex-employees and ex-clients. But she left a firm too. I don't understand. People leave their jobs. The split between Sloan and BWR took place Wednesday and was acrimonious. According to the source, BWR began calling Sloan's clients, some of which were aware that a move was imminent. The New York Post, page 6, first reported that Sloan had left BWR and was backed by Weinstein and Madison Square Garden's James Dolan. Dolan will be involved in the new venture, the Weinstein source confirmed. So, like, all of these people, Sloan, Jones, they've all left their past employers. They've all done, like, taken people with them. This happened with Jones. It happened with Sloan. I don't understand why they then freak out when people do it to them. Leo, it's so nice to see you. Sounds like she has major abandonment issues. Probably. Yeah, we're going slow today. Today was a slow day for me to get started. But it seems like more people are able to come on later in the day. So that works. All right. Actually banned from saying bad things about herself. Oh, you guys are so sweet. Okay, so that's what I found there. Is there anything else you guys wanted me to pull up? We can just do the Harvey thing all in one. I've had a lot of talk. I accidentally had myself pulled up. Let me see. Do I have it? And there's just too many people involved. I can barely keep straight everyone that is involved in this case. They all just blend through to be the same person in my brain at this point in time. Maybe it's just an ADHD problem. I don't know. But it is hard to keep up. Okay, I have some extra time. So let's just dive into this here. Harvey Weinstein. Okay. I have a few things to say about this. And I think some things are going to be a little bit controversial. And that's okay. And no one has to agree with me. So, let's read this first. Actually, I just had an epiphany that Blake Lively's name is going to be a reference in law history as the first one to use California Civil Law Code 47.1. That's true. That is true. All right. So let's just dive into this. One, I've said for a very long time that I believe Harvey Weinstein was intentionally taken down. I am in alignment with Candace Owens' thoughts on this. So she does a great series on Harvey Weinstein. I would definitely go check it out. Even if you don't like Candace, It's very interesting. There's, he had one of his cases overturned. He's appealing the other one, I believe. Like, there's a lot of sketchy stuff that's coming out in regards to his cases. And even Joe Rogan talked about it. They talked about it in the exact same video. Not a lot of people are talking about this. Actually, I'm going to vent about that for a little bit. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna do it. You don't have to agree. But how come no one dragged Joe Rogan? So I see people saying like Harvey Weinstein should keep his mouth shut, but no one dragged Joe Rogan for mentioning Harvey Weinstein before Justin Baldoni. Y'all, if you watch the whole video on Joe Rogan, right, you have to splice at the exact right second to not catch Harvey Weinstein's name. Because Joe Rogan and the people that were on his show go over how it was like set up. I should have had that ready. But how it was set up for Harvey Weinstein, how one of the girls couldn't even describe his genitalia properly, but made these accusations that were being used against him. So Harvey Weinstein came up in that same article. So it honestly irritates me a little bit when people are like, Harvey Weinstein should keep his mouth shut. He's being mentioned in the same sentence as Justin Baldoni. Joe Rogan did it first, and everyone was praising Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's who put the two names together. How else would you describe genitalia? Well, his isn't where people were saying it was, but we're not going to get into that here. So, there's that. Also, I'm not saying that Harvey Weinstein is like a stand-up guy. I'm not saying that he is exactly. And so if you can't even get that right, how did he do what you're saying? Just saying what you're saying he apparently did. I'm not saying he's a stand-up guy. I'm not saying he's a nice guy. I'm not saying he's someone that you should admire, that you should even like. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is if people are charged with crimes and convicted on crimes, it should be facts. It shouldn't be made up, cherry-picked things, and what I believe to be trumped up, like bolstered claims from what I see is a takedown attempt. So for me, when I look at things with critical thinking and a critical thinking lens, I always come at it from a lens of like, what are the facts? What's being presented? And I try to leave emotions out of it. And I did that like in the beginning, you hear Blake's claims. And even in the beginning, I was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. That's horrible. And then look what came out afterwards. But had Justin not fought, would that have come out afterwards? No, it wouldn't have. None of this would have. If he didn't have, I know they love to say Steve Sarowitz's name, but Steve Sarowitz and all this money to fight for him, the facts wouldn't have come out. So you know what it would have been? Everyone would have likely thought he was an SHer or an SAer because Leslie Sloan ran to the papers and said he was SAing people. She upgraded from SH to SA. And then you had Ryan Reynolds running around Hollywood calling him a sexual predator. So, I'm not in, there's going to be someone that's going to take this completely out of context and say that I'm defending Harvey or whatever. That's not what I'm doing. What I am saying is there's a lot to suggest that things aren't exactly as they seem. But anyway, Joe Rogan had brought it up because what Joe Rogan was talking about was false Me Too claims. That's what he was talking about, which was also in support of Justin, like false Me Too claims. All right, so let's have a look here. Harvey Weinstein to New York Times, I feel for Baldoni. And here's the thing. What I always ask is we look at it with a critical lens, right? There's enough places you can go in online and be like all emotional and be like, just like, not that emotions are bad, but like looking at it from just like a very enraged place rather than, what's going on here? What I hope more than anything for my channel is people start to look at all of the news critically. It's not just Justin and Blake, all of the news critically. So, okay. He says, I feel for Baldoni. You cherry picked info to fit your narrative with the exact same people involved. Remember, Leslie Sloan, Megan Twohey, New York Times. It is very interesting. So it talks about him having inserted himself into the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively legal battle and blasting the New York Times for allegedly doing the same thing to him that the paper did to Baldoni. It says, let's go down. In his $400 million suit, Baldoni has claimed the New York Times cherry-picked details and altered key communications to deliberately mislead readers. And that's exactly what Weinstein says the New York Times did to him when their journalists reported on allegations of SH and SA by numerous accusers who came forward during the 2017 Me Too movement. Worth noting, Weinstein had nothing to do with the production of It Ends With Us. Now, another thing people are saying that I'm seeing online is like, I'm not going to believe it unless I see the original statement. This is the original statement. It was to TMZ. And, you know, I know a lot of people have feelings about TMZ, but it's really no more or less sleazy than any of these other bloody, like, they're all a hot mess. Defending Harvey Weinstein isn't the same as questioning the validity of arguments and testimonies that appear to have significant fabrications. Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Exactly. You got me. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you. I'm not trying to defend him in the very least. Not at all. Okay, so in his statement to TMZ, so this was apparently a direct statement to TMZ. He says, watching Justin Baldoni take legal action against the New York Times and its reporters, accusing them of manipulating communications and ignoring evidence that counter Miss Lively's claims hit me hard. It brought back everything I experienced when the Times reported on me in 2017. They did the same thing, cherry-picked what fit their story and ignored critical context and facts that could be challenging the narrative. And I really think this is something we should all be upset about, whether we like the person or not, right? Like, it's one thing when you really like someone, you're like, I love Justin, and, you know, he's hot and he's funny and he's spiritual and he's a nice guy, and, you know, I'm going to defend Justin. You know, for me, at least how my brain works, it's not a matter of like, well, I agree with, and I'm defending, as Emily said, defending Harvey Weinstein, defending his actions versus really questioning, like, are these actually true? Is it actually true that the reason why I have a certain perspective on someone is because the New York Times cherry-picked and fit their story to make me think something very specific? And that can be hard sometimes. That causes a lot of like discomfort internally, because when we look at like that internal discomfort is like being challenged on what our beliefs are about something. And that can be absolutely uncomfortable. You guys are so sweet. So it says the cherry picked the information. Weinstein went on, I should have stood up and fought back then. I should have had the courage to speak out. And I don't think, you know, this isn't saying he was innocent of everything, but he is saying, you know, things aren't what they seem. And there's a lot of and I'm not going to get into it too much. Even people, celebrities, people that know him are saying it's not exactly how it's being made out to seem. Like how it was made to seem in the media and with the trial. I'll just say it, leave it at that. I should have stood up and fought back. That failure still haunts me. I'll be watching this case closely. It matters to anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of a media takedown, and even more to someone who's had to pay a high legal price. So as you know, it says Weinstein was convicted in LA and NYC for rape and other offenses. Interestingly, Megan Twohey is one of the bylines in the New York Times' original Baldoni Lively article, and she reported extensively about Weinstein's crimes. He's being held on Rikers Island, awaiting retrial for his NYC conviction after he won his appeal, but the Manhattan DA refiled the case. We've reached out to New York Times Director of Communications as well as Megan Twohey herself. So far, no word back. Couple of other points. Weinstein wants to make clear that he's not taking sides in Baldoni Lively matter because he doesn't know the facts, but he noted that he has only ever had the kindest, warmest interactions with both Blake and Ryan. So he seems to be staying neutral. I know it's going to upset a lot of people. I'm just reading what he says there. So I've had some questions from people if I think this was planted by Leslie Sloan or if it was planted by, here's the thing. I know that one, he says, this is just my opinion for what it's worth, that he's never had anything but good interactions with Blake and Ryan. I think Blake's spoken out positively about him in the past. I still don't think he would do something to support Leslie. I genuinely, I just in my gut don't think he would do something to support Leslie Sloan. I don't know. And I think, in terms of who this hurts, who it helps, I'm sure Justin doesn't want really to be associated with Harvey Weinstein, if I'm being honest. And I don't know, there's a piece of me that is, again, with the way I see things, if we do have this trail of constant cases that are being manipulated, could this actually change? Maybe not. Maybe that's hopeful, wishful thinking, but could it change the media? Could it actually require there to be due diligence or where they're actually held to some kind of legal standard where they can be sued if they keep trying to bring people down? And Megan Twohey, why is she constantly connected with men that are being brought down? That's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. Whoops. He has an obvious motivation for supporting Blake. I don't see it personally, because he would have to be supporting Leslie too. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I just personally don't see it. The false Me Too claims the trend is growing. Yep. Yeah, I agree, Kitty. He is remaining neutral on it. What is Megan Twohey's link to Harvey Weinstein and Jones? So Megan Twohey is the one that wrote the original Harvey Weinstein New York Times article. And then she's also the one that wrote the New York Times for Blake Lively. What her connection is to Stephanie Jones, I'm not sure, to be honest. The only thing I can come up with is that Stephanie Jones, Leslie Sloan is Blake Lively's publicist. Leslie Sloan has also allegedly been involved in a Me Too article with Megan Twohey in the New York Times. I almost wonder if the connection with Stephanie Jones and Megan Twohey is more the Leslie Sloan piece. That's what I'm kind of thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Why would he support Blake if he believes she is lying when he feels it was done to him? That's what I'm saying. I agree, Gigi. He's basically saying that Blake and Ryan and co caused, a cherry-picked article. Because those text messages came from somewhere. But yeah, I think he is kind of remaining neutral. Yes, Twohey got a Pulitzer for Harvey Weinstein, which starred Me Too, and so did Ronan Farrow, which a lot of people forget. I had posted that in a video once, and someone got very upset with me when I said that Ronan Farrow had written a Pulitzer or received a Pulitzer. They were like, "Get your facts straight." It was Megan Twohey. It's like, no, they both did. Yes, Candace Owens is never afraid to look into controversial topics as him. Yeah. And it is two different things. Whether, you've done some not really on the up and up things versus Grape and SA. And that's where he becomes such a divided character, right? And I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to speak out on him. Or they share it. Right. But I just meant they both, I don't know. I'm obviously not saying it right, but they both have one because of it. It's not like it's small print included Ronan Farrow. But yeah, anyway, that is that. And everyone's going to have different opinions. I'm not arguing with anyone on it. Like, I'm not trying to convince you guys of my opinion. And like I've always said, I'm always happy for someone to come with like facts and be like, here, right? Like, here's the facts. And I'm always willing to look at it. But yeah, I don't want to argue with anyone, and I'm not trying to convince anyone of my viewpoints either. I genuinely don't think that he would support Leslie Sloan. I don't know. What do I know? But people are going to be emotional and up in arms for their own reasons, right? Like, everyone has their own feelings on that. Let's see if there's any new news today. Live. Justin. Yeah, there's not really much coming out. I think we're waiting on new legal documents too. Oh, you know what I can try to find? Let me see if I can find it quick. I'm usually not good at finding it quick. Okay. I think this is a clip from Joe Rogan. So I'm going to play it. It's a little crass. I mean, it's guys sitting around talking sports. So if that's not your thing, this is where you're going to want to leave. And it's not going to hurt my feelings. But if you're like, Joe Rogan is definitely not my vibe, and I'm giving you a couple minutes to peace out, he's definitely not my vibe, and I don't want to hear just no, then definitely now's your time to leave. But I think this is a clip.
Line sinker.
Okay. Keep in mind, this is the same video. This is like seconds before he starts talking about Justin Baldoni. Did I see JW reply to Blake Live? Yeah, I'm taking a break from the legal documents. I have no interest in going over them anymore at this point in time. It's just too much. All right.
Dude, I was eating breakfast today.
Yeah, I do the same shit.
I was eating elk steaks, watching Candace Owens on my YouTube.
I love her. Did you see?
Like, this is crazy.
Have you dived into her Harvey Weinstein shit?
Yes, I watched the first episode of that.
Bro,
crazy. It's crazy. So you can't believe I'm on Harvey Weinstein's side,
right?
Crazy. Like, I thought he was like guilty of like heinous crimes, and then you listen to it and you're like, wait, what? What is going on?
When they go through the actual affidavit, like what the girls accuse him for, you're like, what?
Yeah. Also, the emails back and forth with the girl. Yeah, she was talking about his testicles. He doesn't have them. Like, there's all these like things that should have like completely thrown out a lot of her claims. Like, she was talking about he made me like hold his balls or something like that.
He doesn't have balls.
He doesn't have balls. His balls are like literally like inside of his thigh.
When he's like 30 years old, they had to get rid of them.
He's got a terrible disease. It's like gangrene of the dick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Have you ever heard of it?
Never heard of it.
Oh, he's got this crazy disease where your dick is basically like rotting off. And which is
I'm gonna have to pause there anyway because I can't run it too long. So this is apparently what is happening with Harvey Weinstein. I can't verify that. I have no idea if it's actually true, but that's apparently what. Watch Candace. Candace
like
has got
obviously a sex addict. Yeah, your dick starts rotting away, and then you still whip it out.
Yeah,
you're whipping out a zombie dick.
Yeah,
like it's a mess. It's a mess.
What is that actually called?
Prosecutors revealed to the jury that Weinstein underwent surgery in '99 for Fournier's gangrene, which required doctors to remove some of his scrotum. That surgery caused a pretty noticeable scarring because of an infection. His testicles were actually taken from his scrotum and put into his inner thighs.
So you go through the reports and they're like, yeah, he made me suck on his balls. You're like, he didn't have balls.
Well, that's a problem.
Whoa.
There's a lot of problems. The lady was a grifter. The lady allegedly. and was going back and forth from rich guy to rich guy, trying to get things happening. And Harvey put her in a few things.
And I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm not speaking to that, but there's a beautiful bird. I wish I had my phone to use that is sitting at the window. It looks like an oriole or however you pronounce it. So we'll continue.
That was Harvey's move, apparently. He put you in a few things. But like Whitney told me that he would make deals with ladies. Like, look, suck my dick. I'll get you an Oscar.
Yeah,
and
being Batman.
And they would suck his dick.
Yeah.
And he would get him an Oscar. And like, this is the thing where everybody thanked him. Thank you, Harvey.
That actually happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
That did actually happen.
Gave an actress an Oscar.
Well, he didn't give him an Oscar. He gave him an Oscar award-winning role in a Miramax film, which is going to be a blockbuster film, which pretty much gets you real close. And then there's the influence of it being a Harvey Weinstein movie. He was the king at the time, and everybody followed his lead. Like when, you have big movies like Pulp Fiction and those kind of films that Miramax produced, they produced bangers. You go back and look at the Miramax library, banger after banger when Harvey Weinstein was, because
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the wildest movies from the wildest dude.
And I will say, this seems to be all true. I mean, it was said in court. This is true. The problem with stuff like this is, even if he is this horrible guy, when you start fabricating and lying and making things seem bigger than they are, it hurts everyone. It hurts everybody. And this isn't just like Joe saying this. This is actually, like, if you go through all the legal documents, like, this stuff was actually, like, it's true. They're not just making stuff up.
Who is clearly a sex addict.
And he's like, if you want to be a lead in Pulp Fiction, you gotta suck these balls in my thigh.
I mean,
it's fucking wild.
He just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. If this happened in the 80s, they probably would have thrown it out.
Yeah.
But in the Me Too movement, it was a hot witch hunt. There was a lot of people that got in deep shit.
Dude, look into the dude from that.
Yeah. So anyway, this is what's said right before they switch in. Like, this led the conversation over into Justin, which is often not spoken about when people talk about how amazing it is that Joe Rogan spoke about Justin Baldoni, because a lot of people are clipping this out and just showing the Justin Baldoni part. That's the real Fear Factor. Do you guys remember back in Fear Factor? Oh my goodness. But anyway, Candace called him like the sugar daddy to a lot of the girls. They did this for fame. And that's well known in Hollywood too, what Joe's saying. It's not like they're just making it up. It is well known in Hollywood that that's what happened. And the fact about his genitalia issue isn't just speculation. It was actually said in court documents as well, which is, I don't know if I can't remember because I don't have that on hand. I wasn't really prepared to talk about him on this, but I can't remember if it's why the one case got overturned or why they're able to appeal this one. But yeah. Please read Ronan's take on his father's PR machine during Woody's accusations. Not sure if it means anything. Sure, I can have a look. It's scary to me that a court in this day and age handled it the way they did. It is not that I'm worried that Harvey is a good man serving time. And see, that's the thing. And that's the critical thinking that I think we can really bring to the table for stuff like this is, it doesn't mean you all of a sudden think he's a good guy, right? You're like, yes, he is who our young men should be aspiring to be. No, but we can also say it's scary that courts in this day and age are handled like this. Another case that you see this with is the Karen Reid case. Ronan's father, you mean Frank? I've seen him even address that. Frank Sinatra claims. I would believe that. But or I forget where I was going. Anyway, I forget where I was going. ADHD. But I want to do that one too. Which one? More Ronan Farrow stuff or the Frank Sinatra thing? Oh, I forget where I was going with it. But yes, we should be. Oh, Karen Reid. There we go. We found our way back. Karen Reid. It's horrific what happened with her case as well. I don't know if you guys have been following it. Emily D. Baker's covering it. The Karen Reid case. Oh, thank you. Yes. I appreciate you guys. So with the Karen Reid case, it's actually horrific what's gone on in her case. I mean, they were literally putting evidence in solo cups. Like, do you remember when you were young and you were drinking at parties, those like red cups? They were putting evidence in solo cups, in the neighbors' solo cups, in paper bags. They have the carport area where her car was towed, where they claim that there's these changes to the tail light. All of a sudden there's like gaps in it and pieces missing, and it's like inverted to make it look like the police are on the other side of the car. The case is wild. And it's red solo cups for beer pong. Exactly. Zombie D. I know. I died. Red solo cups for beer pong. Yeah. That's what, from the neighbor's house, they were putting evidence in the Karen Reid case. And so she spent millions of dollars on her first court case. And whether you believe she did it or not, the fact that it went through with even like the murder charges with the evidence they had, which was all tampered, all in these solo cups in paper bags with absolutely no chain of evidence. The key people on the case, the detectives on the case, have been fired. The main detective on the case was fired. It's wild, the case. So now it's being brought back again. Watch Emily D. Baker. She does a lot of coverage, and the lawyer, does a lot of coverage on it as well. So the case is being brought back again, and there's very clear prejudice by the judge. Like, it's scary, the amount of prejudice by the judge, but still going to trial. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars to now do a second case. How about for people that can't afford that? It's wild. The fact that chain of custody and proper evidence preservation and collection was not followed and used should have been an immediate mistrial. I agree. Yeah. It's so sad. So then she's going back, and the lawyer, did a great video on even the judge's prejudice. How the judge won't let certain things in for the defense, but then based on her own standards, lets people in that don't meet those standards for the prosecution. It's just wild. I agree, Leanne. People should always keep an open mind to miscarriage of justice. Absolutely. That's really well said. Oh my gosh, they said that they hadn't updated policies and the red solo cups were okay to use. Oh my goodness. Could you do a human design reading on Karen? I don't know if her birth information is public to be able to do something like that. I always feel weird about doing it on like private citizens. Technically, like, I know she's public more, but it's more because of her trial. And the judge won't recuse herself either. Yep. It's wild. Like, the judge had the audacity to, with the one witness, the dog bite witness for the defense's side. This woman has literally been a cop, an emergency room doctor. Like, she has the craziest experience ever. The judge made this snarky response of like barely letting her in based on her experience. And then for the prosecution, she says that there's sufficient evidence for this guy that's basically like has no experience, no medical experience. He's not a veterinarian he's not a doctor understanding bite wounds. Judge is like, oh yeah, no problem. But the woman that worked in the ER and saw dog bites and worked as a doctor, saw these dog bites. It's horrific. But this is what I'm saying, right? Like, it is easy to pick and choose who were like, the justice system should work a certain way because I don't like this person, versus, the justice system should cut corners because I don't like this person. We should always, as Leanne said, keep an open mind in the face of this kind of situation. Even power goes to the judge's head sometimes. I don't see Blake winning, though, unless she buys off the judge. I don't see her winning either. I don't think so at all. I've seen people use VPNs to find things in places where they wouldn't think to scrub. Interesting. They asked the Supreme Court to intervene. Yes. So another crazy thing about Karen Reid is it the whole, like, I remember the first trial because I like streaming trials in the background while I work. In the first trial, it was really odd, the jury process. So the form was really confusing. Originally, the judge shot the defense down for wanting to adjust the form. And then I can't remember exactly what ended up being adjusted, but she came back, they adjusted the form. But there was always kind of like this uneasiness about the form that the jury had to fill out. And so the jury kept coming back as hung. And then I remember lawyers at the time also saying it was a bit confusing because it seemed like you had to have a verdict for each section. I think that was the controversy at the time. You had to have a verdict for each section. So it didn't really talk about like if you were hung. Anyway, jury kept coming back saying they were hung on one of the charges or something. So eventually they just move on. And they're like, okay, yep, was it a mistrial or whatever the case may be. So they close the case. Well, it comes out afterwards. The jurors start speaking out saying, well, no, we said she was not guilty on the one charge. But because they had already like left the courthouse and been released, they couldn't actually like backtrack on that on the case. And I guess there was probably fear around like precedents that would cause, but they couldn't backtrack, even though the jury was coming back and saying, no, the murder charge, we said she was not guilty on. So anyway, it was wild, her case. It's been wild. If you ever want like just a roller coaster of a criminal trial to follow, Karen Reid is it. And you have a lot to catch up on. Ashley, yeah, it's like real life Ashley Judd in Double Jeopardy, literally. Me too, I always stream stuff in the background. Yeah, it shouldn't be broken like that. I agree. It's really crazy. Emily says that judge must have gotten her audacity on discount from the Dollar Tree because those decisions were just as bad as the ones I made as a teenager. Yeah. And they're all connected. And, you know, I'll admit, it's hard to believe the other side that he went in the house, was killed by they weren't even his friends, let's be honest, but killed by people that he was friendly towards and coworkers and then thrown on the front lawn. Like, that's also hard for my head to wrap around. But anyway, that trial is wild. But yes, thank you. Hit like button, my friends. Thank you so much. Karen is innocent. Yeah, there is a new, Netflix has a new series, I think. Let me double check. Now we're just kind of hanging out. You can, I won't feel bad if you leave at this point. Let me see. Yeah, Netflix announces new doc about death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. The whole situation is just... So it's out now. On July 19th, Netflix announced a new 3-part documentary on the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. On January 29th, 2022, O'Keefe was found unresponsive in the snow outside of a home in Canton, Massachusetts. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. His then girlfriend, Karen Reid, was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol and for leaving the scene of an accident resulting in his death. Prosecutors argue that Reid was drunk and furious with O'Keefe when she hit him with her SUV. At the same time, Reid's defense attorneys claim Reid was framed for his death, maintaining that she was a victim of conspiracy by law enforcement to cover up the real killers. What is so wild, too, is some of the individuals involved in this case were involved in another case. Or was it just I can't remember who it was, involved in another case that was a cover-up. The whole thing's wild. On July 1st, 2024, the jury in Karen Reid's trial informed the presiding judge that they were unable to reach a unanimous verdict. The judge then declared a mistrial, and Norfolk County prosecutors have announced that they intend to retry Reid for murder. Yeah, it's if you ever want a rabbit hole to go down, my friends. And that's the wild thing too. The car wasn't damaged when taken into custody. And then all of a sudden you have those weird, like what do they call it? Sally port, carport, whatever, where the car was in custody. You have all these weird situations where the video spliced. Now it's coming out that the defense wasn't even given the whole video. that the prosecution had more content, wasn't turning it over. It's inverted, so it was reversed. Really weird. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. And later, a brake light was planted at the scene. The whole case is just wild. The detective referred to her as a C. Yes. The detective referred to her as a lot of horrific things that I just can't even. And then her defense lawyer made him say them on the stand. He tried to like make them a little bit more polite. Her defense was like, you said it. You say it here. You're going to say it, buddy. And they held his feet to the fire of saying it. But that's what it was. I couldn't think off the top of my head. Reid's case opened up a case of a young girl who was killed by a cop because she was pregnant. Yep. He'd been seeing her since she was underage. It was so nice to have you here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Wild. So anyway, this is the kind of stuff, right? Like we would like to believe, no matter what country we're in, that the legal system is doing what the legal system should do. That's protecting citizens, that it's putting the guilty people away and protecting the innocent from being tried for things that they didn't do. But unfortunately, it's not always the case. Her name is Sandra Birchmore. Thank you. That's what her name is. Sometimes they use these people's lives to make examples of them. That's true too. If not, they take their lives and use them for profit in the media. Well, that's true too. It's wild. All right, my friends, I think that's all I have for you guys today. Originally, we were just going to do a breakdown of Stephanie Jones, but we went into some different topics. Boston cops are so mobbish, misogynistic. That's what a lot of people are saying. It seems like a lot of stuff has been exposed with the Karen Reid case. But Lawyer has some great content. If you want more short form content, Peter Tragos is awesome. And then long form content, Emily D. Baker. Are you and Elise going live tomorrow? I don't think so. I don't think we have plans to. You're welcome. It was so nice to see everyone. You're welcome, guys. And thank you for what I love about this community is we can disagree on things. We can see things differently and it doesn't turn into like personal attacks. So I appreciate each of you that we can actually talk about some controversial topics and topics where we're not all going to agree on them and share our opinions without trying to, take each other out. I appreciate you. You guys are the best. Okay, my friends, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.